Well, good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Lunch Update, our program to help you stay curious, connected, informed, live, and in real time. Welcome to all of our viewers who are also joining us today across the state on Wisconsin Eye. This conversation, like all Lunch Update programs, are made possible by our presenting sponsor, Perkins Coie, with an additional thank you to our Accelerate sponsors, Baker Tilly and Easy Office Products. Today's program will feature a conversation around the latest in the Regional Technology and Innovation Hubs program and its impact on Greater Madison and the state of Wisconsin. Before we begin with our guest, here are a few chamber updates. We have officially locked in the dates for our three marquee events in 2025. So our annual lunch icebreaker will take place center court at the Cole Center on April 23rd. Pressure Chamber, which is the region's Apex Live Startup Pitch competition, will be on August 19th. And finally, our 72nd annual dinner will be held at Monona Terrace on October 21st. If you are interested in attending any of these or making sure they're on your calendar, you can look in the chat function now or just go to our website at madisonbiz.com. And furthermore, if you are interested in sponsoring any of the region's defining events or any of our programming for that matter, now until January 31st, you can lock in 2024 rates for 2025 chamber events. You can contact our team directly if you have questions or if you'd like to reserve those sponsorships. Also, both locally and statewide, the candidate field is now set for the spring elections across the state. Local races here in Dane County include our county executive race and all 20 seats of the Madison Common Council, to just name a few. In total, at the Madison Council level, there are 37 candidates running. There will be 14 contested races, including 2 primaries. And as part of our reoccurring endorsement process, the chamber will send out questionnaires, though they have been sent out, to the entire candidate field and asking for their opinions on issues that are important to business. Candidates who choose to seek our endorsement will be invited to interviews, and then endorsements will be offered based on the alignment of our mission and agenda and what we learn in those interviews. All completed questionnaires, regardless of endorsement, will be posted on our website at madisonbiz.com. And as a reminder, the spring primary is Tuesday, February 18th, and the spring general election will be Tuesday, April 1st. And now for today's guests. Joining us for, I think, the third time is Senator Tammy Baldwin, who was recently sworn in for the start of her 3rd term in the U.S. Senate. She previously served 7 terms in the House of Representatives, as well as in the Wisconsin State Assembly and on the Dane County Board. During her Senate tenure, she has worked in a bipartisan manner to strengthen economic security, invest in education and workforce readiness, and to build a strong made-in-Wisconsin economy and protect American retirement savings. She currently serves on the Senate Committee on Appropriations, the Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation, and the Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions. Thank you for joining us, Senator. Also with us today is Daniel Biank, the head of Regulatory and Government Affairs for Accuray, a global manufacturer of precise radiation therapy and radiosurgical solutions. He began his career serving in multiple roles over a decade at GE Healthcare and was most recently the president and principal for Acuity Legal Counsel. He received his bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from Valpo, master's of engineering from the University of Illinois, Chicago, and a JD, a law degree from the UW-Madison. And then finally rounding out, Lisa Johnson is the CEO of BioForward, Wisconsin. Her journey in biohealth began with Novogen, which she co-founded in 1989, and then later with EMD and Semba Biosciences. Her roles in the industry have included being a board member for the Forward Health Biolabs, Forward Biolabs, also as a steering committee member for the Women in Biohealth Madison. She has served as a board member for WIBIC, the Wisconsin Women's Business Initiative Corporation. And prior to her time at BioForward, she was the vice president of entrepreneurship and innovation at WDC. She holds a degree in finance from UW-Madison. Thanks to all 3 of you for joining us today. So let me catch up the audience. So I'm just going to go backwards so that we can go forward. So I'll catch the audience up with what the tech hubs are if they're unfamiliar. The Regional Tech Hub and Innovation Program was designed to accelerate U.S. global competitiveness beyond what were called the innovation superstar cities. So think Seattle, San Francisco, Silicon Valley, Boston, San Diego. The idea was, how do you take innovation beyond those cities and stretch it out across the entire country in a way that could catalyze new ideas, new technologies, new jobs, and new innovations in under a decade? The original case for this was laid out and what became the definitive case for national economic competitiveness in a 2019 Brookings Institution report that touted Madison and Milwaukee as prime candidates for technology growth. Since 2019 and through the pandemic, the chamber made multiple trips to DC to lobby on 4 different pieces of legislation. As it happens, many times ideas like this move from legislation to legislation, including helping to secure appropriations on the final version. But what we know to be true from its earliest iterations, and the reason why Senator Baldwin is with us today, she has been a key supporter in the enabling legislation, regardless of what vehicle it was in. She supported the program from Endless Frontiers all the way until President Biden ultimately signed the program to law until in 2022 as part of the CHIPS and Science Act. In 2023, in October, the President Biden announced the designation of 31 technology hubs, as well as recipients for 29 hubs that got strategic development grants. And then last year, the EDA, the U.S. Economic Development Administration, approved $49 million in phase 2 funding for the Wisconsin BioHealth Tech Hub, which is run by Lisa Johnson's organization and is one of just 12 hubs nationwide to receive this funding at that time. The hub is centered on personalized medicine. It reinforces our position statewide, but also particularly in this region as a global leader in health innovation. So Senator Baldwin, let me start with you. One hello from DC.
Hello.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you and all the viewers.
As I said, you've been a champion from the beginning, from the earliest iterations. I still remember the meeting, fully masked, socially distanced, in a huge room on the top of the Hart Building, where we needed to meet so that we could spread out. That's how long back your support of this goes. Where you said, not only will I support it, but I'll co-sponsor it, and ultimately, I think became a co-author of the Endless Frontier in its second iteration. When we talked about it, Congress authorized $10 billion for the program. That was what you passed. But only about $700 million has actually been appropriated. Just give us a little bit of insight from Capitol Hill. What are the chances of more funding being appropriated? What are you hearing? Is there discussion about this program?
Yes, well, first of all, with regard to appropriated funds, as you know, we have not yet completed work on the fiscal year 2025 appropriations measures. But I fought for this program in the Senate version of our Commerce Appropriation Bill. $100 million is contained therein. It's a smaller figure on the House side. But we are very hopeful that in our final negotiations that we'll be able to win with the $100 million figure. Shortly after we complete our work on the fiscal year 2025 or legislation, we're going to be getting to work on the next year's next fiscal year bill. And I will tell you that so many of the folks who were integral in getting the CHIPS and Science Act across the finish line are also involved in the funding effort. What I would say is we have now a greater coalition supporting this program, because not only do we have the people who served on the Commerce Committee that got this through, we have the folks who have states where there are tech hub designations. And that creates a bipartisan coalition that I hope will remain strong, despite the fact that we have a new administration and new majorities in the Senate.
So speaking of that new administration and the new majorities in the Congress, some of that happening just as of Monday, have you heard anything from, I hear you saying you think there'll continue to be bipartisan support. Have we heard anything from the executive branch around programs like this, or even specifically this program?
Yes, well, one of my priorities as a member of the Commerce Committee, as well as the Appropriations Committee, is to meet with the designees, the nominees that Trump has made, who will have some oversight of this. And so I had a chance to meet with Howard Lutnick, who is Trump's nominee for leading the Department of Commerce. And I will promise you, and it won't surprise you, that I made sure that he was very aware of the Tech Hub program. I think he has a little bit of a learning curve, but I made sure he knew about our particular Tech Hub in the state of Wisconsin, and that there would be bipartisan support for the program, because there were tech hubs in many different states. Some we might call red states, some we might call blue states. Ours would be a purple state, but I made sure that he was aware of that. In addition, as I said, the new majority in the Senate is I would say that because we always have to work in a bipartisan manner in the Senate on spending bills as well as authorizing legislation, because we need 60 votes to pass, overcome a filibuster, we tend to work really closely together. And the authorship, pride of authorship of the Chips and Science Act and the Tech Hub provisions within it, those people are still there and still very much hoping for strong support. So there will be some changes because of the change in majority and the new administration, but hopefully we'll be able to keep this running strong.
Great. That's a great update, Senator. Thank you. Daniel, Accuray came to this state, this region, through an acquisition. They bought TomoTherapy in 2011. And TomoTherapy was a sort of perfect example of what happens when you have an innovation ecosystem, one tied heavily to a research university like the UW. And I think Accuray realized and recognized the power of that ecosystem, because it still maintained some footprint here, although much of the operation at the time was in Silicon Valley. Since then, you've expanded worldwide training here, product development, operations, manufacturing. Certainly with our encouragement, we've certainly been happy to have been part of those conversations. But the biggest news is ultimately your board and your leadership team decided to relocate your headquarters from Silicon Valley to Madison. So tell us a little bit about Accuray, your role with the company, and then the potential that the company has seen right here in Greater Madison.
Yeah, so Accuray is the leading U.S. manufacturer for radiation therapy systems, which are used to treat cancer. And a lot of people have been touched by cancer, but most people will receive some sort of radiation therapy treatment through their cancer care. And so my team, Regulatory and Government Affairs, we help bring those products to markets all over the world, getting through the approval process and then ensuring that government programs support patient access to this treatment. I think Accuray's development and story really shows that Wisconsin can compete with Silicon Valley. So as you mentioned, TomoTherapy came out of the UW as an innovation, as WARF IP in 1997. And Accuray in 2011 had the CyberKnife, another product that came out of Stanford and their innovation ecosystem. And they brought together CyberKnife and TomoTherapy as really the innovative radiation therapy players at the time. From 2011 to 2016, basically all the manufacturing from California had transitioned to Wisconsin, because it's simply the best place to manufacture, cost effective, and building on a really mature medical device supply chain. And you think about the players that we have in the consortium, GE Healthcare has developed a lot of suppliers capable of making advanced medical technology. Our partners like Plexus and Rockwell Automation, they're all part of that ecosystem that help companies grow and manufacture here. So from 2016, continued to grow here as manufacturing was here. It made sense to design and develop here and continue to grow the infrastructure in Madison. And finally, in 2023, as you mentioned, moving our headquarters here. And what we found was just, even with the choice, whether to grow in Silicon Valley or Madison, Wisconsin, it was just a good business decision to grow in Madison. We found the workforce that we need, people that are committed to our mission for the long term and stay with the company and share their talents. And then again, the supply chain with all the companies that are working in the medical device space.
So Daniel, you were one of those people in that room at the top of Hart Building that Senator and I were talking about in the sort of peak of the pandemic, but still carrying on the nation's business and the region's business. As you've seen this develop, how do you envision the funding and the designation of being ultimately getting that designation that we envisioned, 5 years ago? How do you envision that advancing technical projects within organizations that are part of the hub? So I'm asking you a little bit more about not necessarily as Accuray, but as a member of the Wisconsin BioHealth Tech Hub.
Well, sure. And I think the designation recognizes what Wisconsin already is. We are a leading region for biohealth technology. And a key part about the Tech Hub that doesn't necessarily happen among companies is the collaboration that it will drive between the companies and with our academic research institutions like UW and Medical College of Wisconsin. And when we think about personalized medicine, what the Tech Hub is about. Actually, Nancy Hiller, our president here in the Americas, shared this picture of a toolbox full of hammers, and emphasizing that we need more tools than just the same hammer. You need screwdrivers, you need measuring tapes, you need a variety of tools really to deliver personalized care. And that requires both excellent tools, but also data to see where those tools are most useful. How do we match that with patients? And so we really designed the Tech Hub projects. I had a part in the technology projects to help accelerate that process. And just to cover those 3 projects, we have the Wisconsin Health Data Hub, which is consolidating patient information from around the state in our major institutions, but also the real practical places like Marshfield and Aurora that deliver the practical clinical care. We have the CareScran mobile screening housed at MCW, which is really about engaging people where they live with our health system, bringing screening to them and understanding those barriers of what keeps people from seeking those tests. And then the Image Guide personalized therapy, which is really close to Accuray's mission, but it's about how do you take all this information that we're developing with these better diagnostics like a GE Healthcare, the better tests from Exact Sciences, and connecting them with the best therapy. So it's about creating more options for patients and then helping doctors, really equipping them with the information so that they can match the right treatment.
Senator, I believe you toured Accuray last summer, shortly after the Tech Hub was approved for the phase 2 funding. What did you see on the ground as you toured the building as it relates to the program?
It was quite amazing as a tour because both the opportunity to see the CyberKnife, which uses a robotic system to deliver basically personalized radiation treatments to patients. To see it was just amazing. But I think the workforce there was also amazing. No matter what the role was, the people that I interacted with were very much drawn by the mission and to be a part of that. And I have to say, I really loved what Daniel said in response to your question about just the synergy when the hub then brings all these dynamic, innovative businesses together to, the synergy that occurs is so exciting. And I felt like the workers at Accuray sensed they were getting this opportunity to be a part of something even bigger than the wonderful mission that they have there right now.
Agreed. Thanks, Senator. Lisa, BioForward, your organization is at the forefront of not just leading bioscience, biohealth in the state, but also a key leading piece of why we got the Tech Hub designation. What's happening in your organization? Sometimes the people that are actually doing the work, are the last people you hear from. But tell us what's going on behind the scenes in the moment. What does day-to-day look like from where you were just a few years ago to what you're doing now with this hub designation?
Yeah. So yeah, several things. Yes, BioForward certainly is leading Wisconsin's biohealth industry. And just for those out there, because we do struggle sometimes with the term biohealth, we really try to differentiate ourselves from other regions. You'll see this term used a little bit around the Washington, Philly, Virginia area, because I think it gets really dangerous after all of us that have been in the biotech business for a long time. We aren't San Francisco, we aren't San Diego, we aren't Boston, but we have a breadth of technologies from the biosciences strength to the healthcare strength. And so that's really what we're trying to bring together. And through NAICS codes and through our economic impact studies, we were able to demonstrate this strength. And as Senator Baldwin knows, you couldn't go into this tech hub just as a nascent industry. You had to have a foundational strength. And so by going at this with this broad sense of strength in Wisconsin, we had that economic data then to prove it. And we started doing those reports when I first came on in 2015 and have been in this industry forever. 1989 goes back a long way. So, I've been here for a long time. I have Exact Sciences sitting in back of me here. But we could show and demonstrate the growth of this industry over the years. So BioForward, how we've evolved, is really that we've kind of moved away from like an event kind of organization and really business development. Zach, you're very much into this too. You're trying to push this region. You're trying to push the city. You're always about business development. And that's the same thing that BioForward's tried to do with this industry, and just continually to market and demonstrate what we have here. But without the data, not only our technical project, but if we don't have the economic data, it's hard to prove that you should be coming here, whether it's a company, whether it's talent, investments, partnerships. So we've really focused on that through the last few years. And just like you, Zach, just out there in 2020, I wasn't as focused as you were on that early, but getting together with people like Rock Mackey, that some of you know, and for some of that early legislation going, how do we go after this when it does come out? And then of course the School of Medicine, we were working on this in 2022, getting ready for when this NOFO came out. And of course we felt that this was the industry to go after for the state of Wisconsin. And I just want to play off of something Daniel said when he talked about his supply chain and how valuable. This cannot just be, although we had to designate MSAs of Madison and Milwaukee, and as you promote, Zach, let's try and get better collaborations. We're all trying to do that. This is about the state. This isn't just about Madison, Milwaukee. And the key to that is that we have this incredible supply chain proximity that a lot of states do not have, that can elevate us and now draw more and more companies around this industry, but also around this tech hub. So this tech hub, for people like me, like you, Zach, to me, it's about business development then. It gave us another opportunity to sell this state and to start demonstrating to people nationally, internationally, look at the assets, look what is happening in the state of Wisconsin. So that's kind of how we've evolved as an organization. We are a member organization like you. And it was investments. BioForward did step to the plate as the lead. We've made major investments into this tech hub until we were getting phase 2 funding that only just happened in September 1. We invested in a regional innovation officer. We invested all kinds of different money, legal expense, obviously. So we put a lot into it, but we should. We represent this industry, and for all of us throughout the state, it was really critical for us to win. I think we all just want to win.
And the seeds of this success, I mean, were sowed a long time ago. I mean, as I understood it, you really wouldn't get the designation unless you had an existing organization that was doing work in that space. So the longevity and strength of BioForward created that opportunity. It also, I think, when you look at that stretch between Epic and the Medical College of Wisconsin, the two MSAs that you referred to, these twin engines of Madison and Milwaukee. And I agree with everything that the Senator, Daniel, and you said about the opportunity is not just in these two MSAs. It is broader. It's probably stretching beyond our own state and starting to think about what the corridor looks like beyond just Wisconsin. But whatever we were to call that, a health highway, a medical mile, this stretch between the Medical College of Wisconsin and the Blood Center and Wauwatosa Innovation Center and GE Health, and GE Health Daytech Omida, and just keep, come downtown and pick up the startups, go out the research park where you are right now, Lisa.
Right.
Got Promega, Accuray, Epic, Exact Sciences. I mean, there are 100+ companies that are focused on the delivery, enhancement, and innovation around healthcare. So is this if that was the seed, is this the water, or is this not yet quite the thing that makes it fully germinate into what it could be?
I think it's just one aspect. It is just one aspect. It's one initiative. I mean, it certainly, it helps. It helps us deliver the messaging, like I was saying. I mean, there's multiple aspects to this, certainly, that there's economic impact. That's part of it, that this is going to create more jobs, more economic impact, health equity that was being mentioned by Daniel with especially the MCW project. Those are all important, but it does allow us to expand our reach. I agree with you, Zach. Southeast Wisconsin is a perfect example of that. Eli Lilly first came in, bought Nexus Pharmaceuticals manufacturing plant, and then recently in December announced an additional $3 billion investment. They didn't do that just because of the tech hub. Of course not. They did it because of Wisconsin. But in meeting with them back in October, they also have a tech hub in Indianapolis. And so then they've been engaged. Those two tech hubs have the potential in the biomanufacturing space to be working together. And now we got this linchpin of Eli Lilly drawing these two together. They're involved in workforce. Education is critically important to them, that we invest in education in the state, into the workforce. And those opportunities that spread, it starts to spread, and we start to be able to even connect with that Northern Illinois, Indiana. If we can pull people into the Midwest, we want Wisconsin certainly to win, but we want the Midwest. We're all going to benefit from that. We know that. And this gives us really that opportunity to do that. So yes, you're right. It's kind of it helps us more, because we certainly could be bragging about our biohealth industry. We have the stats, we can say it, but this gave us another highlight, especially internationally, and to Europeans and Asians. When the federal government invests in you, that's a whole different business development opportunity, because that means something to them. So yeah, I think this is it's thrilling that we got it. And I want to thank Senator Baldwin and everybody's efforts, like yours too, Zach, that really got behind this to make this tech hub program a reality.
Senator, to you, one of the cornerstones of not just your campaigns, but certainly your leadership has been around make it in the U.S., make it in Wisconsin. As you tour the state, what do you see as the opportunity? Lisa and I were just talking about the connectivity between the MSAs, and Daniel talked about the supply chain. I'm curious as how you see this benefiting the entire state from your seat as a senator for the entire state.
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, I have to just say this could benefit the entire world. We're talking about the impact, but I think about the innovation that that I say will occur because of this. And then scaling it up so that we can do personalized medicine everywhere. And, if we can cure cancer because of this tech hub, it would be obviously amazing, but at least make it preventable and treatable in nearly every case. I mean, those are some of the things that might happen because of this. And that is extremely exciting to me. And look, in terms of reshoring industry and having homegrown innovation, we saw during the pandemic, and one of the reasons this bill came together as it did was we saw the consequence of having a global supply chain. It meant at a time where everybody needed things that there were huge delays and huge disruptions. And so I do think for our own national security and health security, that there is a real benefit to having this sort of innovation happening in the United States and in Wisconsin. So, keep those supply chains domestic, but then export what we innovate to the whole world.
Lisa, you talked about economic impact for the state and the region. You did a report, but what's the analysis that that you see as what's the projected economic impact of the Tech Hub program?
So we projected up to 30,000 jobs, 9 billion economic impact. Of course, through our reports, just our industry, even before we have this tech hub, we've been growing substantially. A lot of that very concentrated also in the Madison-Dane County region. There is no question. Since 2018, I think it was 12,000 jobs, 25% growth rate. I mean, we just are having phenomenal growth rates with this, where my company got moved out by Merck, who now has purchased Maris, but they're Millipore Sigma here. It has completely reversed how companies are looking at Wisconsin, where they would pull out the young companies, the emerging growth. They now are coming here and investing. And so I think, but this tech hub certainly gives us this other opportunity. And it was the senator was talking, and thank you, Senator. I'm always so business development oriented, and I thank you for the health aspect of saving lives rather than only economic impact. So thank you. Is that, I think this does elevate us to another level, which going back to the goals of economic impact, if we're going to hit the 30,000 jobs, I will say though, that was based off of a much higher number that we were going to be funded it. And, we were cut. And so that does have some impact, especially on the entrepreneurial side, that could impact that job growth that we had projected due to the tech hub.
Let's talk about that. I mean, I think that's an interesting point, Lisa. And Senator, I'd like your opinion on this too. The initial vision for the program going back to the Brookings days was roughly 10 regions. They called for $10 billion. I mean, a big, big investment. And now it's a smaller number with even less actually appropriated, and 31 designations. And I think it was 13, and now they've maybe added 2 or 4 more funded tech hubs. So it feels a little more diluted than maybe it was envisioned in sort of in those early days, Senator, with the Endless Frontier Act. It's a little bit less. Is there concern about the ways those funds are being distributed? Lisa, I'll start with you, but do you worry that the funds being spread broader will dilute the impact?
I can see the political side to it, and I'll let Senator Baldwin talk to that, because I do think that helps on a bipartisan. I do think, and there's been many articles out there, that the whole purpose, again, was to really invest in key technology areas for the United States to protect national economic security and make us more competitive. Then you have to make major investments into that. The tech hubs across all the tech hubs that were designated, we all had our entrepreneurship programs cut. So if you can't fund innovation to take it to the next level, then you can't be ahead on the competitive curve. Now, they may think they're going to fund from elsewhere, but again, I think as you were bringing up, Zach, the whole idea is launch into those key technology areas. I certainly believe that we were one of the top 5. I'd like to think that, just because of the growth that we have, major research institutions, our manufacturing, we had all the elements that they were looking for. Is that I do think additional funding needs to come back to some of these key tech hubs that have already delivered from an industry perspective, that have the component parts, and they need to be investing also on not innovation, on research. That's not the purpose of this program. It's on the commercialization. And I think the more that can be done on that across some key technology areas will benefit the U.S. greatly, rather than just continuing to put a little money just all over the United States.
So, Senator, maybe a 2-part question for you then. The answer on how does it help us politically to spread the money out? But are you concerned then if the money gets too diluted that the original impact that you envisioned as a co-sponsor doesn't get met?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'll do the political question first, because when you have a tech hub in your state and you're a senator, there is you're going to be making sure and doing everything you can that this program stays intact and that it is adequately funded, well funded. And it really, at a time when there are significant threats of sort of slash and burn, the DOGE committee is not a part of government, but I think they're going to come in and propose some pretty painful cuts. And so having more political support is really going to be key in these particular times. I also just, I know you explained the program very in detail, Zach, at the beginning, but just know that these tech hubs are not all biohealth. These are energy, batteries. These are key areas of health security and national security. So they're varied type of innovation hubs. And I think that diversity of science and innovation is also going to help strengthen the political support for them. But as somebody who serves on the Appropriations Committee, this is something that I'm going to fight for, to increase the available funds so that we can support these tech hubs adequately. And as I said, we've fought for funding in the 2025 fiscal year appropriations bills. We're going to start undertaking our work for the next year's appropriation bill soon. And I'm going to be fighting for robust funding for these for the Tech Hub program. And frankly, just to be really clear, if somebody does propose cutting this, we're fighting back. We're not going to just roll over and say, oops, that was, that was nice while it lasted. We're going to fight to make sure this program stays robustly supported.
One of the reasons that it was early on was bipartisan, and certainly one of the Brookings arguments was, and we've all mentioned it, but global competitiveness, right? It was to maintain the U.S. edge when it comes to those sectors that you just referred to, Senator. Certainly we're talking a lot about biohealth and personalized medicine, but in those 12 to 14 hubs, they are varied. And all of those, as I understand it, are key opportunities for the United States within a decade to have a global strength, to be the global leader. And originally, a lot of people talked about this vis-a-vis or juxtaposed to China. I mean, it was one of the, this rise of innovation in China. How do we not just bolster our innovation, but also push it forward? Do you think that it can still help us be globally competitive, even without the full amount of funding that you originally envisioned, Senator?
Certainly, I think it can. And look, what we're doing with the limited resources that the Wisconsin Tech Hub has been allocated, we're doing amazing things. I do think we can put a strong argument for increasing funding, but and I think that at least some of the advisors that our new president is tapping understand the importance of innovation happening here in the US. And in fact, a couple of them also understand very well the need for government support of some of that innovation. So if frankly, Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk have the president's ear, hopefully we can build some alliances there too.
Right.
Hey,
Lisa,
Zach, could I just say one more
coming
thing
to
on
you.
the
Please.
investment
Yeah.
side?
Yeah.
Just because I do think all of us, it isn't always government, right? It isn't always federal government. And there is another, I just do want to mention the 7.5 million, which is government, but it's state government, that was a bipartisan bill. And that, we were really proud that we were able to get that through in a non-budget year. Like, it doesn't happen very often. And that was statewide. So just a credit to our legislators all over the state that only one did not vote for it and for through the Assembly and Senate to give us the necessary matching funds. And I don't know that there was some states that said, yeah, we're going to make different investments, but not a match. And there wasn't a purple state that did that. There wasn't. We stood out from everybody that this wasn't just about Madison, Milwaukee. They could see the benefit of the entire state. And I did want to mention that non-government is that 21 million investment is being made by the consortium partners, an additional 3.4 just by different industry. So it isn't just the federal government, and it shouldn't have been, right? This should be others. This should be us coming in behind with the federal government. So I did just want to mention that this was a organized effort of investment.
Yeah, but let me pull that thread a little further then. If you take all, and I agree, those were great accomplishments, and it's a good public-private, state, federal partnership. But when you take the totality of all those investments, call it 75, $80 million, whatever it ends up shaking and being, you've been charged as BioForward and as at the helm of the Tech Hub to create a globally competitive technology within a decade. Can you do that with $80 million, or what? I mean, isn't there a risk that the vision for what it could have been, if the senator certainly is going to be the voice on the appropriation getting to try to make it happen, but if it doesn't happen, whether because other agencies get the funding or however it shakes out, or it's not appropriated, what is the risk to your effort as for all the pre-work and all the current work that you're doing?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a risk to us in the sense of that's what we should do. You're there to help grow, Madison, Dane County. We're here to help grow this industry. So if BioForward as an entity, I don't see a risk, right? But as an industry, I think you're correct on this particular initiative that I do think there has to be more. But again, I think we can do that in multiple ways. I think it can be, and hopefully there will be some other programs that as we're showing results that the government is recognizing. And this is where I do hope some key tech hubs are also delivering, because if it's just one or two, okay, I don't think we're going to get more funding. So we certainly want these different technology areas of our country and focus areas to be succeeding. But yeah, I think, we do, but I think there's companies that could be coming in here. There's different partnerships that could be happening that really do uplift this in a different way, Zach. And I guess I'm going to go back to my business development hat, that we all just need to be vocal and to be thinking creatively on different programs. I think there are other states that are doing it. I think Indiana's doing a phenomenal job on really trying to do some creative programs, South Carolina, Tennessee. So there is competition out there that I think really aggressive, really vocal. And I think we have to become that. We really have to amplify so we can be drawing in other assets into our state that is in conjunction to any possibly future funding. BioForward itself, I'm not worried. Let's just build this industry, right? That's how I would see it.
Daniel, do you have from a private sector standpoint, you see a lot of energy put in by the consortium members, by Accuray, specifically by yourself. Do you, as you see it moving forward, how do you view the risk of less funding, either hurting or eliminating the potential that you saw originally as a company?
Well, I think that when building on our strengths, the density that we have is important. And where we focused on the Tech Hub is those spaces that really require the intercompany collaboration. And I'll use the Data Hub as that example. There's many countries investing in collecting that clinical data to train the AI models, to identify new patient populations. But that's something that data is a critical piece of infrastructure. It has to be secure. It has to maintain patient privacy. It also has to be ethically collected. And you see things like the Biosecure Act, where other countries haven't done that same diligence. We want to do that right, and that will become a unique asset for other companies to develop products here, and really then the clinical evidence to show that they're effective and where they are effective.
Yeah, Lisa, how can businesses engage with the Tech Hub?
Yeah, so go onto the BioForward website. We launched our new website, and you will see a BioHealth Tech Hub page you can go on to. We're going to have different ways. We already have a lot of engagement. Companies, Daniel was just mentioning the Wisconsin Health Data Hub or Health Data Project. We have companies engaged with that in the Workforce Project. We have a lot of companies that are engaging in that. So that will be coming out more and more on different aspects. And I can see what you were bringing up, Zach, just like there's going to be next initiatives, right? You see the benefit of this industry. You get it. So what are those things? So where do we start to put together maybe a next task force? What does that look like? What should we be going after? So we are putting that together, especially as the governance team that we have within BioForward, looking at ways of engagement. But certainly within the projects right now, there are ways, and you can continue to go on our website and find out those contacts and be able to engage on those project levels right now.
Well, we're at time. Lisa, I want to thank you for spending time with us. Daniel, thank you. Senator, I know you have a vote to get to, I think. And so thank you for staying with us. It's important. I certainly appreciate that you stayed with us. And I also want to say, I know none of this would have been possible. It would not have been possible without the effort you put in 5 years ago and have stayed with it. So thank you for all of that. And to the rest of you, I want to thank all of you for tuning in. Certainly want to thank our presenting sponsor, Perkins Coie, for supporting the program. The next program will take place on Thursday, February 20th. Where we will welcome some local leaders talking about some great new projects right here in Madison. So thank you and have a great day.